Chapter 6. Elena. What an absolute just awful rude selfish being of a person. I made the trek back towards town. The little shop was far from the center of town. Made me wish I had a horse, or at least something to ride around town on. It put my travel boots to good use at least. Maybe Papa was right this morning. Maybe I should have waited a little longer after breakfast before I headed to the shop. I just wanted to get a head start on it all. I figured the quicker I could get my share of business settled, the more time I would have exploring town. We would only be here a few days before our next train would arrive, and I wanted to make the most of this quaint little town. When I finally calmed down from my encounter with the Mr. Owens, I realized I had been stomping my boots so hard into the gravel. As I walked, I was getting rocks stuck in the small heel. I took a slow, deep breath. That Owens boy wasn't worth my anger. Acknowledging his foolish behavior was a waste of my energy. I gazed at the notes I had written down in my notebook. His shop had many interesting things in it. A couple good watches, some beautifully painted bags, there was even a knife that Papa may find worth it. I'm almost positive some of those items were enchanted. With what sort of enchantments I wasn't sure. Maybe I should have asked about that instead of prying into his personal life. If I'm going to please my family and do this job right, I have to stop getting distracted. I have to find a way not to let my mind wander so quickly in situations like that. Soon after I left the Owens shop, I heard someone shout in my direction. "Hey you girl. Hey you." I looked around to see a little house not too far from the Owens shop. It was an older house, looked like it had been there longer than the shop. An old man and women were out on their deck. The old woman glared at me while she swept dirt around. The old man grasped the sides of his rocking chair, and gave me the same look. "Oh hello, we're you talking to me?" I said, holding a hand to my chest. I mean, who else were they talking to? There was no one else around besides me. Unless maybe they just liked shouting at the woods. The man looked at me and shook his finger at me. "You girl. You stay away." I was so confused. As politely as I could, unsure of what I did, I replied, "I beg your pardon, sir." He then pointed in the direction of the Owens place. "Bad people they are. They'll get you in trouble, they will." The woman then chimed in, "Be wary, girl. That boy's no good. He'll get you in his claws, and that will be the end of ya." I raised my eyebrows and gave a slow agreeing nod. Not that I believed them, but I didn't want to stir up any more trouble than I already had in this town, so I just agreed. "Okay. I will." I waved at them and started to walk quickly away. I've seen some strange people around, but for a small town who probably thrives on visitors coming in and out, they have a weird way of welcoming strangers. I finally reached the town center. Everyone, visitors and townspeople alike, were hustling and bustling around on this beautiful day. Shop owners selling things, people were drinking coffee and tea, a few children were running around playing with a ball. The center of Hartslag was such a different place from the outskirts of town. There was the flower shop where a woman was placing all sorts of beautiful colored flowers, from sunflowers to smaller flowers like baby's breath. Across from the inn was the bakery with cupcakes and scones and bread alike sitting in the window. Nearby was a shop titled The Market, where a shop owner with a loud and booming voice boasted about the goods he was selling. Around the corner was what looked like the blacksmith's, which looked closed for the time being. I made my way up the stairs of the inn, and noticed in the corner of my eye, a young man jump up suddenly and run over towards me. "Excuse me, miss." He ran ahead and reached for the door just as I did. "Allow me," he said, slowly opening the door for me. I was surprised at the effort he made just to open the door for me. I thanked him and walked into the inn, taking my hat off. He followed me inside and closed the door behind us. I turned around to see what he was going to do next, and he just stared at me. After a moment of silence, he reached his hand out towards me. "Hello, miss. My name is Cedric Nas." I reached my hand out to politely shake it. As soon as my hand touched his, he turned it and kissed the back of my hand. "Hello, sir. I am Miss Danvers," I replied, slowly pulling my hand back. He wasn't awful to look at, handsome in his own way. He had dusty blonde hair and tanned skin from being out in the sun. He wore a nice brown jacket with dark brown pants and boots. His smile was charming, and I sensed he knew that. "Welcome to our beloved town, Miss Danvers." If you ever need anything, I will be more than happy to provide for you. MMHMMM. I'm sure you would love to provide for me. I smiled sweetly, and said, Why, how thoughtful of you, Mr. Nas. You can call me Cedric if you like. He tried to take my hand again, but I saw right through what he was trying to do. He appeared attractive before, but now he was slowly on the verge of appearing creepy. Did he put on this show for every pretty girl who came to town? I stepped back, avoiding his reach, and said, You know I am a bit tired. It's been quite a busy morning for me. Thank you again for your offer, but I will have to decline for now. Before I could make it up the stairs, he stepped in front of me, blocking my way to the stairs. You can make it up to me. Make what up to you? I thought to myself. He continued. There's our end of summer festival tomorrow. You could honor me with a dance. It could be kind of like a date if you want. I didn't really know what to say. I didn't know Papa's plans. Also, why was he being so pushy, stopping me from leaving him? A festival? I asked. Almost on cue, Mr. Popkins appeared from behind the front desk with flyers and tools in his arms. Oh my, yes. Every year around this time we hold a festival to celebrate the changing of seasons. We hold it during a busy week, and well, I think everyone in town would agree we are quite busy. Mr. Popkins handed me a flyer and attempted to point outside the indoors, still holding too much. We will be setting it up just outside. There will be music and food and dancing, and oh, it will be a joyous time. With that he bounced away like a busy bee. I smiled, then remembered Cedric was still standing in front of me. Had he moved closer? So what do you think? He asked as he leaned his arm clearly in my way. I'll do just that. I'll think about it. I slid under his arm, fully blocking the stairs. In hopes he wouldn't follow me, I continued. Now if you'll excuse me, I have some business with my papa to attend to and much needed rest. He shouted up the stairs. Goodbye, Miss Danvers. I'll see you soon. I hurried to my room, closed and locked the door. It's nothing he said in particular, I just felt like a small animal being hunted around him. He just didn't seem to understand physical boundaries, and his pushy charm was a bit too much. It verged on being desperate. I heard a knock on my door. I swear he really is desperate. I took no time opening the door to really tell Mr. Nas off. I swung the door open. Oh, Papa. Hello. Expecting someone else. Papa raised an eyebrow and smirked at me. I sighed in relief. No, no one. Come in. How was business at the, what was it called? Lost little things, Papa, and yes, I have a list of things. A list? Not things? I didn't want to make any rash decisions yet. I made a list as so we can discuss prices together, and I can close our transaction with Mr. Owens. I didn't mention how I felt like Mr. Owens didn't want me there, or how weird he acted, or how awkward I made conversations with him. I handed my notebook to him and he analyzed the list. There's quite a few things here that are good. Are many of them enchanted? I didn't ask, but I can confirm when I see him again. Which is when? Today. As soon as we finish listing possible prices. He stared at me with a blank face. I wish I knew what Papa was thinking. Finally he spoke. I will look over this list while you go visit the market for me. The market? What for? The owner there, Mr. Nas, and I discussed some trade today. He has a son. Oh heavens, not Cedric. He was quite a charming young man. With the town throwing a festival tomorrow, I thought you could grant him your presence and charm him yourself. Maybe convince them to lower the prices on a few things. You might even enjoy his company and find a friend in him. I rolled my eyes and plopped myself sitting on my bed. Oh Papa, please. What? You are getting older and I hope to see you one day matched with a young man. Possibly their family can be a great merge of businesses. I plopped my body down, completely laying on my bed. Papa, I do not want a friend. I just want someone nice, as like a pen pal type friend. How am I supposed to have a relationship with someone if we never stay in one place too long? He walked over and sat on the end of my bed next to me. I do not mean to press. I just want to see you happy with someone like your mother, and I someone to be not just a partner, but your partner in life. Someone like a best friend whom you could love forever. I sat up and smiled. It was a lovely thought. Thank you, Papa. I understand. I'll think about visiting Mr. Nas at the market. He kissed me on the forehead and got up. "I'll look over this list and bring it to you later this afternoon." As he closed the door he said, "Don't go too far." I waved him off saying, "Yes, Papa." After laying back down, staring at the ceiling for what felt like hours, my boredom snapped me out of my trance. I got up and looked out my second-story window. Maybe I will explore the town until Papa is ready. Looking at the town from my point of view, I could clearly see the market. I could also clearly see Cedric chasing after a young woman who just walked by. His smile shone so big and obnoxiously bright as he put his arm around her shoulder. To think of settling down with someone such as the likes of him. I would want someone who loves me with my flaws, as many as there are. I don't want someone perfect. I don't even really want anyone now. A friend will do just fine really for now. I headed down the stairs to the main room. Everyone was busy outside setting things up, so the main room was quiet. I wandered around the inn. Mr. Popkins kept his inn in very good condition. You can tell how much he loves this place. The flowers placed around were taken care of. There were small paintings around of different places in town. I don't know how he does it. There was even a fresh pot of mint tea brewing in a small room. I sat down in the chair in the corner and poured myself a cup of tea. While the tea cooled, I took a look at the books displayed on the single bookshelf in the room. There was a note on one of the shelves. "Please take a book and leave a book in its place." A book swap? How fun. My mind went to Mr. Owens. He mentioned this was something he enjoyed doing. I wondered if he had read all these books already. There weren't many on the shelf. Why did Mr. Owens interest me? I mean, he wasn't awful to look at, once he cleaned up a bit and wasn't grumbling. His voice had a sort of sweet gentle tone to it, when he wasn't yelling at me. I picked up a random book and started to investigate the synopsis of the story. As I began to take a sip of my tea, Mr. Popkins appeared. "Oh, you found the tea. Good. And looks like you found a book to read too." I smiled. "Thank you, by the way. Mr. Popkins, is this one of the books Mr. Owens likes to read?" He stopped dead in his tracks. "Quinten? Do you mean Quinten Owens?" "Quinten. So that was his name." I nodded and hesitated, responding. Yes. He likes to read these books, right? Does he visit often?" "Only when the town slows down and isn't busy." "So he probably won't be at the festival tomorrow then?" He turned and looked at me with a very stern, serious face. So far I had only ever seen him cheerful, even when he looked stressed. "My dear. When I say this, I mean it in the most sincere way." He sat next to me and put his now empty hands gently in his lap. "Please be careful around the Owens family. You know not to go out after dark, especially close to the woods. It's like a curfew for the town. There's a bad spirit that surrounds the Owens family." I looked at him curiously. "A spirit?" He stumbled over his words. "Well, not a spirit, but there is something dark that surrounds the Owens family. Bad things happen to those who get too close to them. I know they seem odd and maybe a bit sad and lonely, but they are just a little unfriendly." "Right. What could possibly happen just by?" He interrupted and put his hand on my shoulder. "Please be careful, my dear. I don't want anything bad to happen." I looked him in the eye and nodded. "I'll be careful. I swear." Maybe he just needs a kind heart and a friend. He sighed. I guess that wasn't enough for him. His face changed with a cheerful, "Do you need anything else with your tea, Miss Danvers?" I gave him the biggest smile. "No thank you, sir. I am quite well." He walked back outside and continued instructing townsfolk in construction for the festival. An hour or so later, after Papa came down and found me still settled in my seat, I was deep into the book I started earlier that day and hadn't moved. "Here you are, my dear. Your list for Mr. Owens is ready for you to bring to him." He handed me the list while I still had my book in hand. He stood there waiting for a response. Did he expect me to leave now? I was enjoying myself, just peacefully reading, escaping into another world. Papa slowly pulled the book out of my hands, leaving the list in my hands. He then closed the book and put it back on the shelf. Great, I just lost my place in the story. Then he gestured towards the door. "Go on. There's work to be done." I got up with a forced smile and left the inn. I guess I'm going back to the Owens shop sooner than later. I grabbed my hat still hanging on the rack from earlier and started my way to the edge of town. I have already grown tired of this walk. As I walked up to the door, I peered into the windows to see if they were still open. I didn't see anyone in there. No lights. No movement. I went to knock on the door, then hesitated. A light, gentle knock might be best this time. Tap. 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 Mr. Quinten Owens? I waited for a reply or movement around the shop. A minute or so passed with no response. I went to tap on the door again, before I saw through the window someone headed towards the door. The door opened and Quinten gestured with his hand, "Come in, Miss Danvers." I walked in as he closed the door behind me. "Hello, sir. I have your list of prices for the items we wish to purchase." I handed him the list. He gave a stern glare, almost annoyed I was here again. He slowly read the list and looked up at the items as he walked around the shop. I tried to keep my mouth shut to let him work, but after only a few minutes I asked, "Are you going to the festival?" Without looking at me he replied, "No." "Why not?" I asked. "I do not like to mingle with the townsfolk unless I have to." I tried to let the issue die, but my curiosity won over the returning silence. "I found the books you read at the inn. Do you have a favorite?" He kept walking around and sighed. "I simply read whatever is available." I gave a follow-up question. "Do you have any books of your own here that are your favorite?" I reached his breaking point again. He turned and snapped at me. "Why do you insist on not letting me work? Why must you ask so many questions of me that are none of your business?" I stumbled over my words, mouth agape, trying to come up with a witty response, and he continued. "Just stop being a silly little girl playing businesswoman with daddy's money and let me work in peace." Just then someone came down the stairs from behind a curtain, sounding angry, mumbling to himself. Quinten's face turned from anger towards me to fear of what was coming down those stairs. What could he be afraid of? He rushed towards the curtain and discussed something to whoever was behind it. I tried to sneakily peek around him and see who it was, but I could not see his face. I assume it was Mr. Owens, his father. Quinten quickly then walked straight towards me, gently placing his hands on my upper arms, and nudged me towards the shop door. "Look, I will confirm the prices soon and bring them to you," he said in a hushed tone. "Wait." I tried to stop him, but he managed to get me outside. I tried to stop him from closing the door. "Excuse me, Mr. I." He closed the door just enough to have his head out the door, and said, "I will come to you at the inn and we will finish. I promise. Just don't ever come back to the shop without your father. Do you understand?" I tried to argue, but his face was different. It wasn't anger. It wasn't fear. He was pleading for me to just go with it. I gave him the benefit of the doubt and decided to trust him. Whatever was going on clearly had nothing to do with me, and was way too personal for me to find out in the moment. I was tired of trying to argue with him anyway. I simply smiled and said sassily, "Yes, Mr. Quinten." I could tell using his first name took him by surprise. He gave the smallest of smirks and said softly, "Thank you, Miss Danvers." As he closed the door I said, "Call me Elena." He slowly nodded, shyly smiling, and shut the door completely.